At first, I saw this story from Andy No, and I was horrified. A bunch of young teenagers on bikes attack an SUV with medical license plates, even stomping out the windshield, surrounding these people, taunting them. The vehicle speeds off, desperately trying to escape. People are all standing around filming, watching this in broad daylight as riotous behavior hits the streets. So you see, these young people, they know nothing's going to happen. New York City is becoming, or has become, a wasteland. Now, you might be saying, so what, Tim? Some young ruffians masked with a car. Oh, it's worse than that, man. I mean, to be a bit more serious, the murder rate in New York City has skyrocketed. Violence is plaguing the city, and it's getting really bad. But let me tell you this, because I want to read you about the story. I'll show you some of this. You know, these kids on bikes throwing their bikes at cars. What if I were to tell you that rats were eating pigeons and squirrels were attacking people? That's pretty crazy, isn't it? It's actually happening. New York is becoming a wasteland. I mean, maybe it already is. Check this out from Fox News. New York neighborhood residents report squirrel attacks. One woman was bit on her hands and arms. Why is that happening? It's all connected. The shutdowns have stopped people from going about their business, from being on the streets. So a couple things are happening. These kids riding around on bikes, there's no one to stop them. What are you going to do about it? These animals, they're not getting fed. So the squirrels are starting to get aggressive, desperate, and angry. They need food. People would go out and eat drop food and garbage. The squirrels would eat it. The squirrels are fat and happy. Now there's not enough food, so they're getting aggressive, angry, and desperate and attacking people. I kid you not. Seems kind of crazy, doesn't it? Well, if we go way back, we go back to September. Nauseating moment, a New York City rat tries to eat a live pigeon before the bird is saved by a pipe-wielding Good Samaritan. The bird is saved? What about the rat? Shouldn't the rat be saved by being allowed to eat the pigeon? You see how crazy things are getting in New York City. Rats are eating pigeons, squirrels are attacking people, and kids on bikes are riding around smashing cars. I mean, some of it sounds a bit silly, but it all is very, very serious. I mean, squirrels, they could have diseases. You get bit, you got to get a rabies shot, I'm pretty sure. I mean, if I got bit by a squirrel, I go to the doctor right away. Get that vaccine ASAP. Rabies, man. By the time you get symptoms, you're done. You're dead. You're dead. It's over, and it's a horrifying way to go. Apparently, they have some like experimental treatments where they'll put you in an induced coma to try and get you through the worst of it. And apparently there's a report that one person may have survived this, like only one person. So a lot of people think it's not even legit. But do you really want to be in New York City right now? From the New York Times, violent year in New York and across U.S. as pandemic fuels crime spike. A time without precedent saw huge increases in homicides and shootings in the city as some other types of crime plummeted. Now, let me tell you about these kids on bikes. But I'll tell you the craziest thing. The craziest thing is the only outlet I saw actually write about this is Russia Today. I don't use Russia Today. You know why? Russia Today likes to report on stories that inflame tensions in the U.S. But I think it's important to talk about at least some of the stories. Now, showing a video, dozens of teenagers surround and attack a car bearing medical plates in New York, it's probably going to make people, angry. But what's interesting is, shouldn't the people of New York be mad about this? Shouldn't everyone left and right be mad about what's going on in this city? What we're seeing in New York is coming to the rest of this country, and I hope you're prepared for it. Investors think that under a Biden presidency, the economy is going to face headwinds, they say. It's a calm way of saying start selling, I suppose. I don't think that's necessarily the right thing to do. I think the U.S. dollar's in serious trouble because they just making it rain, printing out money like crazy. Maybe that's why Bitcoin is skyrocketing now at like, what, $28,000? Man, I'll tell you this. A month and a half ago, Bitcoin was at like 15, and people are like, you should buy some Bitcoin. So I did. What people don't realize about Bitcoin is that you don't spend $15,000. You can buy $5 worth of Bitcoin. And if you did, you'd now have like $10. Not completely, but yeah, just about $10. Because I think it was at like 13. So yeah, you can buy tiny amounts of Bitcoin. It's skyrocketing. All of these problems are only going to get worse. Joe Biden's not going to release the lockdown. I don't see Trump pulling through and getting any kind of victory and saving this country in any way. He signed the omnibus bill. He redlined it. Democrats don't care. Joe Biden's going to get in. Osterholm's going to lock everything down. Mask mandate, economy, tank. I'm not saying it's definitive. Definitely not. A lot of people made predictions that Donald Trump would destroy the economy, and the opposite happened. I have no reason to believe that Joe Biden is going to do right by the economy. It's yet to be seen. The Obama years weren't all that bad. It wasn't magic or anything. There were some problems, but it was a decent recovery from, the economic crisis. Under Trump, though, it was just even better. Barack Obama said you'll never reach 4% growth. You don't got a magic wand. Well, we'll see how things play out. But here's what they say over at RT. Intense footage from New York has gone viral, showing a large group of teens attacking a stopped car, then following the vehicle on bikes as it attempted to escape them. The videos shared around Twitter on Wednesday show more than a dozen bike-riding teenagers surrounding an SUV with medical license plates. Some of them proceeded to punch the car's exterior and windows and even hit them with their bikes. A few youngsters jumped on the hood, slamming it with their shoulders or elbows. One dude jumps up on the car and then drop kicks the windshield, shattering it. You know what? I'm like, why do these kids think they can get away with doing something like that? There's no consequences. That's why. If I'm parked or I'm in the road, right? And someone's running towards my car, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put it in reverse. And if they jump up on my hood and try to drop kick my windshield, I'm going to reverse. I'm not going to drive into them. I'm going to back up and get away from them. But what would have happened if this dude ran up onto the hood of the SUV and then jumped and then the SUV just backed away? They'd be a good, 8 or 9 feet in the air and they'd come straight down to the asphalt. And then they'd figuratively eat it, as we say in skateboarding. People in the car just sat there and the people just beat on their vehicles. It wasn't that long ago we saw a bunch of Trump supporters get attacked in a similar way and they just sit there. And I'm like, dude, I don't know if you guys saw the video from the Black Lives Matter riots. There was a car on a highway and they surrounded it and started punching the driver. She just peels out and then slams into some dude and he goes flying. And then the Black Lives Matter people were like, they're running us over. And NPR showed a picture and they were like, the tactic of the far right hitting people. And everyone was like, that driver was cleared of all wrongdoing. If you surround a vehicle and attack them, you can flee. It is not your fault they're attacking your vehicle. And don't get me wrong, I wouldn't put past New York City to actually arrest you when you are the victim, because a lot of these blue areas seem to be doing that. Man, things are getting bad. I'll tell you this much. So look, I can tell you about the squirrels and the rats. Check this out. New York Times says, the first disaster in a year of perpetual crises hit the New York Police Department in March, when the virus tore through the force. Soon the courts ground to a halt. By June, hundreds of officers were reassigned to cover mass protests against police brutality and racism, where police and protesters sometimes clashed violently. By August, gun violence was surging. And as December drew to a close, New York's 447 homicides made 2020 the city's bloodiest year in nearly a decade. The hobbled criminal justice system strained to contain the rise in violent crime driven by the pandemic's society-wide upheaval. I can't imagine a darker period, Police Commissioner Dermot F. Shea said at a year-end briefing, with reporters on Tuesday citing the confluence of the pandemic and the protests. The year's crime numbers give shape to 2020's tumult. Transit crime and grand larceny, often the stealing of laptops or iPhones of strap hangers, plummeted as trains emptied out. But burglaries and car thefts spiked in a hollowed-out city. And bodegas, neighborhood staples during the throes of the pandemic, saw an increase in robberies and shootings. You know why? Somebody wants to steal from you. Somebody wants to steal to make money. They see you on a train, they pickpocket, they steal your bag. They're satisfied. They got some cash. When they're gone, what do? Burglarize. They still want to steal stuff. They got to go find it now. Isn't that interesting? Criminals will seek out new means to steal and make money when the people aren't around. The crime gets worse. Now they're going in your stores. They're going in your homes. It's getting crazy. The same is true for any living thing. A rat trying to eat a pigeon, they're not just going to stop. Criminals who were stealing things were doing it so they could get money to buy things. They're not just going to stop. They're going to find new ways to do it. It's going to get worse. And when they become desperate, people are going to lose their lives. Check this out. They say, by summer, the frustrations of shutdowns and economic collapse had burst onto the streets. Shootings had doubled, and most of them were concentrated in the areas hardest hit by the coronavirus and unemployment. The increase in violence resembles trends in many big U.S. cities, where shootings and homicides have risen, even as the pandemic has driven down other crimes. We've never had a year like this in policing, when you've had a combination of a worldwide health epidemic, and a challenge to community trust, said Chuck Wexler, the executive director of the nonprofit Police Executive Research Forum. That has been a combustible mixture, and the police in many ways were not prepared. Okay, NYPD, if you want to violate your oath to the Constitution, by all means, go ahead and do it. But don't expect any sympathy from me when you do. Now, I will get the back of any officer who stops a violent rioter from destroying a small business or burning down someone's home or property. But when that cop is the one who has taken a club to the head of the store owner, figuratively, why would I defend them? I think it's really funny. I made a post about this, and these lefties are like, the right is now starting to realize that cops are bad. Dude, look at, do you know anything about who I am and what I've covered? I'm all about principles, protecting the innocent, individual liberties, and justice. And that means when you have a roving band of teenagers smashing vehicles, we need cops. To say that all cops are bad is stupid. We need the cops to go in there and deal with it. But then when you have cops blocking the entrance to a small business who has a constitutional right to assemble, well, now you're an oath breaker, and I will not defend you. New York City is a wasteland for a variety of reasons, and the cops contribute to it. No joke. You can't just say it's a problem of crime, because it is, don't get me wrong, but it's also a problem of people can't open their business and go about their life because they're barred by the police. That's who went down in Staten Island. NYPD went to Staten Island. There was a bar about a block or two away. Everyone's open, but they were in the red zone. So the cops stood in front of the building and wouldn't let people inside, and they eventually arrested the guy. I think they arrested him more than once. In New Jersey, I think it's Belmar, you got some gym owners. Cops showed up and arrested these men. And they were abiding by COVID restrictions, but they were just keeping their business open. They had all the social distancing, masks, and proper, occupancy and everything. Government doesn't care. They want to watch you squirm. They want to squeeze you out. And they've got boot-licking oath breakers who will do it for them. Many good cops have quit. And I called these people heroes before. And my point was that refusing to follow corrupt orders is the right thing. But now I wonder, what we really need are these cops just to enforce the law. I know. They need to enforce the law. You got kids smashing up vehicles? Arrest them. You got people burglarizing? Arrest them. You've got despotic lunatics stealing taxpayer money to paint the street? Arrest them. These criminals, the cops who would stand in front of the business and block people from getting in, criminals. The hero cops should arrest them. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see for once in my life, a cop actually arrest another criminal cop. They won't do it. They won't put themselves on the line. Now, we've seen, it's okay, to be fair, it's happened before. There was one female cop who grabbed a male cop who was beating a suspect and pulled him off. But I want to see a legit arrest. Seriously. I've seen so many instances where a cop commits a crime and the other cops just say, leave me out of it, because they don't want to cross the thin blue line. That's, I guess, what they say. They don't want to, tattle or rat or snitch. Snitches get stitches, they say, right? So these cops won't do it. For once, I would just like to see an honorable, principled cop arrest the criminals. Now, I know they arrest criminals people go around smashing stuff. I'm talking about right now these cops who are destroying New York due to an unconstitutional edict. These aren't laws, but they don't care. So what do you get? You get a New York wasteland, man. Now, look, I get it. New York City passes the grim milestone of 25,000 COVID deaths as Cuomo reduces quarantine period from 14 to 10 days in line with CDC guidance. New York City's got it bad. They're hard hit by COVID. So I'm sure a lot of these cops are just we got to stop the spread of this virus. The problem is Cuomo. The problem is de Blasio. They're the ones who have set the city on fire and destroyed everything. Their policies failed. There are other bigger cities that weren't hit as bad as New York. New York got it the worst. You got Andrew Cuomo. He put sick people into nursing homes, killing them. 6,500 according to ProPublica. And you got Wolf of Pennsylvania. You got Murphy. I think Whitmer did it too. I'm not entirely sure. Putting sick people in nursing homes. I'm sorry, man. You do that and you will never convince me that it was an accident. How is that an accident? We know that people over the age of 70 are the most vulnerable. Older people are the most vulnerable. Let's take young sick people seriously and put them in nursing homes. Why? Like the Javits Center where they set up the emergency hospital wasn't even full. It's like 30%. They could have put sick people there. I think Cuomo wanted to kill them. I'm not even kidding. Because what's the answer? It was an accident. I didn't realize putting sick people in nursing homes would cause them to die. Are you serious? I don't believe it. I don't. And I feel like if you went to court, they'd convict the guy. But he's a despot. And he's got bootlicking oath keepers who have surrounded him and are guarding him from accountability. And that's why New York is a wasteland. Animals are going to bite and eat you. A rat tries to eat a pigeon. Like, it's just falling apart, isn't it? Now, here's the scary part. It's coming to the rest of the country. And you got a Joe Biden presidency who's going to guarantee that. From The Guardian, the World Health Organization warns COVID-19 pandemic is not necessarily the big one. Experts tell end of the year media briefing the virus is likely to become endemic and the world will have to learn to live with it. Now, you read that and maybe you say, finally, we'll realize we can't do anything to stop it and we need to just reopen and deal with it and people are going to die. And it's horrifying. It is. But we never thought we were going to stop this thing. It was a novel virus. We knew the spread was going to be bad, so we wanted to slow it down. Okay. We're not immortals. We got to learn to live with it. The only problem is we know based on what Cuomo is doing, de Blasio, Whitmer, Newsom, Murphy, Wolf, etc., is their version of living with it is destroying everything. It seriously is like that SpongeBob meme. You see where SpongeBob and Patrick, the starfish, standing there and the city is all completely destroyed and burning. And SpongeBob's like, we did it. We saved the city. That's what they think. It's kind of like, I don't know if you guys ever seen Age of Ultron, the second Avengers movie. So Ultron is this robot and he's programmed to stop, the protect the planet, stop the war and everything. And so it's a very common trope. He's like, I know how to end all war, kill all the humans. It's like an old common trope that the AI is told you have to, stop war and violence. And the easiest way to do it is to get rid of people. That's what New York is doing. New York is like, we're going to stop the spread of this virus by making sure everyone dies from it. Then it won't be spreading anymore because there'll be no one to spread it to. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, man, with the incoming Joe Biden and his plans for a nationwide lockdown, or at least I should say his advisors' plans for a nationwide lockdown and mask mandates, and his general ineptitude and inability to function properly, we're headed for some dark times. And Joe Biden himself said, we're heading for a very dark winter. Oh, great. You love to hear it, don't you? From CNBC. Investors believe the stock market could see headwinds under a Biden presidency. CNBC polled more than 100 chief investment officers and portfolio managers about where they stood on stocks under a new administration. 2/3 of the first 4 years of a Biden presidency will be worse for stocks than Trump's term. Still, Wall Street is optimistic the Dow Jones Industrial Average will reach new highs next year. Look at this. Will the first 4 years of a Biden administration be better for stocks than Trump's first 4 years? I think it'll be worse. Okay, to be fair, worse doesn't mean negative. It could just be that under Trump, everyone thought things would be great. Under Biden, they're going to go, it'll slow down, but sure, fine, I guess. No, I think under a Joe Biden presidency, we're going to see riots, violence. The policies of Democrats that have destroyed their states will reach the executive. And I'll tell you what, January 6th, all these people are going to be coming down to D.C., right? What happens if people are in D.C. the day early and they get the news? The Democrats have won the runoffs in Georgia. The Democrats now control the House, the Senate, the presidency. And with that, they will pack the Supreme Court and take all three branches of government. What do you think is going to happen when that happens? Do you think people are just going to be like, well, I guess we lose. Let's have the Democrats do whatever they want. Or do you think there will be a simultaneous mass explosion, figuratively, of people's brains? Trump supporters in D.C. will be angry. and they will be inflamed hearing that all of this is going down. You look at the riots from the left that have gone on with impunity, the dancing in the streets and the celebrating of Joe Biden's victory, the ignoring the lockdown. And while these people are jumping up and down and dancing in the street or dancing on the graves of the COVID dead in the hospitals like these TikTok nurses, regular people are getting this rage built up inside of them, and they're finally going to snap. You see, watching these videos of people smashing a medical vehicle, how come only RT covered it? How come no one else is talking about what's going on? I mean, obviously a lot of people are, but I mean like mainstream media. Where's the story about this stuff? Where's the concern about this stuff? I mean, a little bit for sure. But don't you think people would be fed up? Don't you think when the leftists were dancing in the street that Biden won, there would be some kind of criticism? Nope. These people went out and danced and partied like morons. And then they say, but you can't run your small business. You can't even assemble, as is your constitutional right. But they can. They absolutely can. That's the joke. You carry on a Black Lives Matter banner, and they'll allow you to do whatever you want. So at what point do people just scream, I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore? They're going to go to their windows, they're going to open it up, and they're going to scream, I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. January 6th, maybe. Or maybe not. Maybe I think Trump supporters certainly have energy, but I don't think conservatives do. And that's something important that a lot of Trump supporters miss when I talk about this. When I say conservatives are going to roll over, they're like Trump supporters get mad at me. I'm like, are Trump supporters traditional conservatives? No, they're not. The traditional conservative, like establishment Republican types are going like, well, we'll go to work and go to bed and then wake up to fight another day. You've lost. It's done. You'll never win again. At each and every election is the Republicans losing more and more ground and then just capitulating to Democrats and the left. At a certain point, people are going to snap. And we're starting to see it. Like that video of the woman who beat the cop with their own baton. Man, things are getting crazy. But I'll leave it there. Enjoy it in New York. I hope y'all are having a good time. Next segment's coming up on my other channel, which can be found by typing in youtube.com/Timcast. And that video will be up at 4 p.m. If you want to watch that video, here's all you got to do. At 4 p.m., go to your browser, type in youtube.com/Timcast, press enter, and subscribe to that channel when you go there. All right? All right, I'll see you then. Thanks for hanging out.